Yeah.
All right, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar from Barton Publishing, Barton Nutrition, and Barton Supplements. I'm Cheryl. I'm going to be here today. Leslie, who's usually our host, is not here today, but the good doctor is in. Dr. Scott Saunders is here, and we are welcome here. We are glad you are here. So I know there are a lot of regulars, so let's give them a chance to get on to the webinar, say hello. And then I will remind everybody to put your questions in the Q&A. That is where we will look at them. And thankfully, we usually get to almost all of them. But first, we're going to talk about the subject of blood sugar and heart disease. So if you have any questions that don't relate to this topic, not a problem. Put them in the chat, or I'm sorry, in the Q&A, and we're gonna get to them. And usually we give a good disclaimer at the first because we want you to take care of yourself, and we are here to help you in every way possible. And Dr. Saunders loves giving out all of his good information, but we have to say, you have to talk to your doctor to actually do anything. Wink, wink. So we say that, but we really hope you listen, take the education and knowledge that you've learned here, even talk to your doctor about it, and research further, really. So welcome everybody, and let's get started. So Dr. Saunders, I have a few questions I want to ask about how blood sugar relates to heart issues, but do you want to give a general explanation maybe first?
Okay. Just what Cheryl was talking about how you've got to take the information and apply it to you properly and continually research it and try to understand it. I have had a definitive, this is the way things need to be done, the 610 reset, which was totally blown up last week by Huberman in the Huberman podcast, and he's like, "Okay, all the old ideas of you got to go to bed with an empty stomach, that's out the window now. You got to
What?
have 40 grams of protein before you go to bed." And so I've started researching it, and it turns out there's some research that shows that taking protein or having protein before bed helps you maintain your muscle mass. And so that's what Huberman was talking about. And so I'm still researching it. I don't have an idea, but there is some research to show that. Now I have issues with that. What about mTOR, for example, which is something that the 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 body makes for anabolic metabolism. But if you have too much mTOR for a long period of time, you can end up with cancer. So, it's not that simple just to say, okay, everybody has to eat 40 grams. Do you know what 40 grams of protein is? It's like 16 ounces of cottage cheese. Like you got to eat the whole tub. It's like eight eggs. It said milk protein is a better choice. So then you're talking about like two tubs of yogurt, like
Wow.
or like the whole container of the Greek yogurt, one of those. 40 grams of protein. Let's see, or cheese. Yeah, like if you had 8 cheese sticks, you could get 40 grams of protein. It's just I don't know. I just can't see. I don't normally eat that much. That's 8 eggs
Oh,
too. Yeah.
before
So
bed, and on top of that,
yeah, for any meal, much less right before bed. So I don't know. I'm gonna research this, but just so that I've had this like set. This is the way
mhm,
everything is. It has just been upset by some research. So now I got to look into that and see, is that real? Is that a real thing?
mhm.
So heart disease and blood sugar. You guys, this is really important. It's not a small thing because your metabolism affects your heart dramatically. So when you have high blood sugar, your glucose goes high, then your insulin has to go up to try to bring the glucose back down, right? And if your glucose stays higher, then your insulin goes higher. Insulin is the hormone that's very damaging to your heart, very damaging to your heart. When you have high insulin, it prevents your heart from using fat for energy. Normally, we have 60% of our energy in the heart comes from fat. And if you can't use fat, you don't just start using more sugar, you just have less energy. So the heart works less. What does that mean? It means you try to walk up a hill and you're, oh, my heart's not working. You get heart failure, the failure of the pump. It's not pumping right. It's not working. You start getting swelling in your legs. Your lungs fill up with fluid. That's heart failure. Why? It's failure of the pump because there's not enough energy of the pump. So, so if you're not getting enough energy into it, it's not going to work. That's the problem. So, if your blood sugar's high all the time and your insulin's going up and you're getting insulin resistance, you're going to have heart problems. And that is clearly something that affects a lot of people. So if you have atrial fibrillation, what is that? It's a lack of energy to the heart. If you have arrhythmias of other types, what's that? It's a lack of energy to the heart. If you have congestive heart failure, that's a lack of energy to the heart. If you have atherosclerotic disease, that is a clogging of the arteries, which is also related to that, but for a different reason. It's not because you can't use fat for energy. It's because you don't repair very well with the diabetes, and your glycocalyx on the inside of your blood vessels gets damaged. So for all those reasons, having a normal blood sugar is really important. Keeping your insulin level down is really important. These are not small problems. This really affects your heart.
Yeah, and those vessels that if they have damage, that causes plaque buildup, and we all know what plaque buildup means.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. What does high blood sugar do to triglycerides or your
Oh,
arteries?
okay. So triglycerides are the fats that we use for energy. And so whenever you have high blood sugar and your insulin goes up, your insulin is telling your fat cells make more fat, but don't use it for energy. It's just store it. So what ends up happening is your triglycerides in your blood go up and up and up and up and up, and because of the insulin resistance. And you can guess pretty well what somebody's insulin resistance is by their triglyceride level. So up to 150 is considered normal, right? And over 150 is considered high. I've seen people over 1,000 where their blood is half fat. It's like this much blood and this much fat in the test tube when we drew the test tube. And if you just let it sit there for a while, all the fat floats to the top and you get the fat on the top. It's amazing. It's like, wow, that's like a lot of fat. Um, but under 100 is optimal. So you really the between 120 and 100 or the 100 and 150 is considered technically normal, but it's not healthy. The healthiest place to be in your triglycerides is under 100.
And what about blood sugar and inflammation that leads to heart problems?
Okay. Wow. Yeah. So then that's another part of what Cheryl's talking about. This increased inflammation that's caused by having all this extra sugar. Why? Well, because glucose is a high octane fuel. It burns hot. So it makes your body hot. It increases inflammation and increases oxygen free radicals. When you burn fat, fat's a low octane fuel. It doesn't have as many oxygen free radicals. Moreover, when you increase fat, as you're increasing the fat in your body, you also increase the the inflammatory mediators that are made from the fat. So interleukins, leukotrienes that cause inflammation are increased. So it makes you more prone to inflammation. So you just anything can cause inflammation when you have high levels of those inflammatory mediators. So it's not, having high blood sugar increases your inflammation in your body, and inflammation produces more heart disease.
All right, let's go through another common thing about blood pressure. How does the high blood sugar affect your high blood pressure, which we all know can affect the heart?
Oh, that is really interesting. So thank you, Cheryl. This is really good. The blood sugar doesn't primarily, so just because your blood sugar goes up doesn't mean your blood pressure is going to go up. But if your blood sugar goes up and your insulin goes up and you block the use of fat for energy, then you have lower energy. Whenever an organ in your body has low energy, it says, I need more blood flow. I don't have enough energy here. I need more blood flow. If it's your brain not getting enough energy, and this is a common problem, then the brain says, raise the blood pressure because I need more blood flow. If it's the kidney's not getting enough blood flow, not getting enough energy, it will say, raise the blood pressure. I need more blood flow. So the blood pressure is being raised because these organs are getting depleted of energy. They need more energy. The heart needs more energy. The brain needs more energy. The kidneys need more energy. And your blood pressure goes up. And it's because the blood sugar is high and you have insulin resistance and you can't use fat for energy. So the trick there is you can fix this so easily by just burning fat for energy. It just fixes everything. Your blood pressure comes down to normal. And these studies have been done, and it's totally there. And all the research is there to prove that that's exactly what happens. But you go to the doctor, and what does the doctor say? Here, take a blood pressure medication. What is that going to do? Well, it's going to lower your blood pressure so you have less blood flow to your brain. So now you have low energy and less blood flow. Which is damaging. So what do people get? Alzheimer's disease and dementias, are skyrocketing in these people. It's really simple and proven multiple times, multiple studies, that all you need to do is burn fat for energy.
All right, can you drop the bomb? How do you burn fat for energy?
Thank you. That's why we wrote the Diabetes Solution Kit. So the Diabetes Solution Kit is really about how you burn fat for energy. And it is by taking out all the carbohydrates out of your diet, not all of them. You always have some. You can't get them all out. And you want to eat like vegetables and low sugar fruits. But you limit it to 20 grams of carbohydrates a day. And that gets you into ketosis. Ketosis is what happens when you're burning fat for energy.
All right, I am about to put in the chat, again, our website, Barton Webinar. If you use webinar 25, you get 25% off. So you can get the Diabetes Solution Kit there if you're interested in learning more about regulating your blood sugar naturally, burning the fat. All right, and then the last thing I wanted to ask before we get to questions, which I love, does high blood sugar affect your clotting?
That's a great question. I don't think it affects it directly. I think the inflammation that we talked about before, for example, damages the lining of the arteries called the glycocalyx. Now, the glycocalyx is like a totally smooth layer. It's like gel that everything just slides. All the blood just slides past. It offers no resistance. So you don't have laminar flow in a blood vessel. You have like total flow in a blood vessel. But if you have a little nick in there, a damage or an area where there's no glycocalyx, then you start getting slowed flow, laminar flow, and little eddies in there, and things don't flow properly, and then you start forming clots. So in the case of the inflammation, because of the high blood sugar, it's going to start damaging the lining of the blood vessels and allowing clots to form. And this has been proven too. This is one of the risks. In fact, it's so interesting that somebody came up with People that have gum disease, no other problems. They have gum disease and they have heart disease. They're going, what the heck? What's the relationship between gum disease and heart disease? Well, it turns out it's just inflammation. So the high blood sugar that's increasing the inflammation, the inflammatory mediators, and that allows the damage to the lining, which then forms clots in your arteries, and that's where you get atherosclerosis of your arteries.
So, what would be some of the top 5 things to do to protect your heart besides, helping keeping your blood sugar in balance?
Okay, so these 5 things include things that will keep your blood sugar in balance. Number one, eat a good diet, eat good food. It's really important to have fruit, vegetables, have enough fiber in your diet, grow good bacteria in your diet. Eat good fats. Avoid those awful fats. Anything like corn oil, soy oil, canola oil, vegetable oils, partially hydrogenated oils. Anything that is processed foods, you pretty much want to avoid. Don't eat at restaurants. Okay, so a food, don't eat at restaurants. That's actually big because it is very rare for a restaurant to have anything except crappy oils that everything's fried in. And there's 4 things that every restaurant needs to stay in business: sugar, salt, fat, and MSG, all of which damage your arteries and damage your heart and damage your brain. So that's a big problem too. So that's one. Number 2, exercise. If your cells are just chock full of sugar and they're so packed with sugar that they can't take in any more sugar and your blood sugar is going up, but it can't get in the cells because the cells are just jam packed with sugar, what are you going to do? Just start exercising and using up all that sugar. Use it all up so that it's that your tank is getting empty. That's when you become insulin sensitive again. So that's another one. Fasting periodically. If you fast, the more the better, essentially. There's no downside to it, except you kind of get used to it. It's like you don't just, well, some people do just start fasting and they just quit eating, and they'll quit eating, and for 2 weeks they won't eat, or a month. I've had people do that. So that's possible. But, a lot of people get hypoglycemic and they're really miserable. I had somebody in my office today. She said that she went to some kind of retreat. I don't remember what it was. I think it was like an American Indian retreat kind of thing. And she said they did fasting. They did 24-hour fast. And she said she gets a headache every time and never got used to it because hypoglycemia, you get low blood sugar. That's not normal. Normal is when you're going along, you start fasting and your blood sugar drops off, you immediately switch to fat burning metabolism and your energy stays the same and doesn't change at all. That's normal. And if you don't do that, if you get hypoglycemic, that means you have insulin resistance. Okay, drink enough water. We've talked about that several times. A lot of people are dehydrated. They're not getting enough water. But remember that when we've done this webinar before, there are 3 different types of dehydration: lack of salt, sodium, lack of potassium, that's intracellular dehydration, and lack of water. And probably the key, the biggest thing that we've found is the potassium problem. So getting enough potassium. How do you get potassium? Well, fruits and vegetables are the best way. Some people drink celery juice to get enough potassium, and that's a good way. So that's what I think. Those are the 5 best.
And sleep, did you mention sleep?
Oh, no, that was number 5. That's sleep. If you have stress, if you have high cortisol, you don't repair your blood vessels properly, because cortisol is a catabolic hormone. It breaks everything down and it doesn't allow the buildup or the anabolic metabolism. So if you don't get enough sleep, you're going to have high cortisol. If you have high cortisol, you're not going to repair your blood vessels. So sleep is really important for your preventing heart disease.
Great. And if any of you have questions about heart-related issues, put them in the Q&A. We're about to get to them. Um, I think the Q&A is one of my favorite things because we're here for you. And who gets the chance to ask a doctor a question about their health if they're confident enough and okay sharing? This is the place. So I love it. And Joby, I see you're raising your hand. Go ahead and put any questions in the Q&A. We'll get to them there. I saw one question in the chat. I will look for it later. But one of our first questions that came in from Lily says, Dr. Saunders, what is the test for leaky gut, please?
Okay. Um, Leaky gut. One of the tests that I do is an antibody test. It's an IgG antibody test, and you can get them from a lot of different labs. And it's the IgG antibodies against food. Because if you have IgG antibodies against food, what that means is that food has gotten into your blood. And how does it get into your blood? You know, you're not doing vaccinations or injections, putting food in directly into your blood. The only way, well, reasonable way, is for when there's a leaky gut. And that's literally, you know, normally the cells are like right next together. And when there's spaces between the cells, then that food can leak into your blood. And then your immune system has to clean it up. So if the immune system is cleaning up stuff, then that's where you get IgG antibodies. So that's the best way I have of looking for leaky gut.
All right. I hope that helps, Lily. All right. Don asks, will artificial sweeteners like stevia and monk fruit help reduce insulin resistance?
Thank you, Dawn. That's a great question. No, the answer is no. The answer is any artificial sweetness. The taste of sweet prepares your pancreas for making more insulin for whatever you're eating. And so more insulin means more insulin resistance. So thank you, thank you. Don't use artificial sweeteners.
Yeah. Dr. Saunders has said this for a long time, not to use them.
Oh, and I did research on that recently, by the way,
Oh,
and
yeah?
it's true. It's actually something that's real. That's studies have shown that is a real thing.
Do you have any help for getting off the taste of sweet if you're used to it?
Yeah, yeah. You just got to cold turkey get off it, and after a while, it takes a long time. After a while, you'll lose the taste for it, and it'll always be good. But you know, every once in a while, I eat something and I go, "Whoa, that's way too sweet. I can't handle it." And so, yeah, you'll lose the taste for it.
Yeah, time will reduce the cravings. It might be a little hard, but your body will adjust. All right. Kevin asks, well, actually says this. I'm so glad to hear about the protein. So at the beginning of the call, Dr. Saunders said Dr. Huber, is it Dr. Huberman or just
Yeah,
Huberman,
yeah, Dr.
says to eat 40 grams of protein before you go to bed, which is kind of opposite of what we've been saying to go to bed with an empty stomach. So
Yeah.
Kevin says, I'm so glad to hear about the protein. I've recently, in the last 6 months, experienced that I've increased about 2 eggs or 1 egg and a half a cup of cottage cheese. My body really reacts positively. While I'm doing exercise religiously, 5 miles a week or approximately 14,000 steps, that's amazing. Good job. My numbers have decreased, and I've been maintaining this since April 22 through 2025. And thank you for teaching us about the 48-hour fasting.
Okay, so there's a lot in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, the protein, it's a thing, but and he did specifically say before bed, and there was research for that. I'm not sure yet if we can use the protein like in the morning after you sleep. I don't know yet. Anyway, so there's that. Exercise, great. 5 miles a day or 14,000 steps, that's awesome. And then 48-hour fasting, yeah, that's really, it's been a game changer for me too. That really makes a difference.
Yeah, Dr. Saunders fasts the first weekend for 3 days of every month.
Yeah.
So, all right. Thank you, Kevin, for that. All right. Someone asks, is there a max amount of chia seeds and flax seeds one ought to consume per serving or per day? Is there specific tests to compare omega-3 versus omega-6?
Huh. Yes. Okay, let's do the second part first. The omega-6 to omega-3 ratio is a test you can get from any lab, and it is a very important test. Why? Because the more omega-6 you have, the more inflammation you have. That's what I was talking about, the bad oils. You want to avoid all those seed oils and all that. You want to balance your omega-6 and omega-3. So we talk about increasing omega-3. Why? Because we can sell things. So we have Barton Publishing. You can buy fish oil. Why fish oil? Here's the issue, and that's how to get enough omega-3. There are only three things in all of nature, well, not all nature, but in our diets, uh, three things that have more omega-3 than omega-6. Okay, three things, just three: fish oil and chia seeds and flax seeds. That's it. If you're eating anything else, you're getting more omega-6 than omega-3, and that includes walnut oil or walnuts. Most nuts are like huge, like almonds have 20 times more omega-6 than omega-3. Even like olive oil. Now, olive oil has a very tiny amount of omega oils, but it has 13 times more omega-6 than omega-3. So there's no good oil to get your omega-3 up except fish oil, flax seeds, or chia seeds. So the second part of the question now, which was the first part, is there a limit to how much flax seeds or chia seeds? No, not really. There's not a limit. I was watching someone, lupus. She's a medical doctor that had systemic lupus erythematosus, and she cured it. And so she explains how she cured it. And she has this whole program around it, and it's a half a cup of flax seeds or chia seeds in your smoothie every day. So a half a cup, that's a lot. So it's not just sprinkling a little on your oatmeal kind of thing. But it's a significant amount of omega-3 oils, and that does lower inflammation. So I don't know that there's a limit. So that's fine.
Hmm. Now, I have heard that some say chia seeds are not good for you because they're encapsulated and it's like a form of protection. So, therefore, your gut doesn't want that protected element inside it. Have you
Oh,
heard that?
that's interesting. Okay, so the chia has an envelope around it, and it's a fiber. It's a soluble or it's an insoluble fiber. And yes, there's protection around it, but then there's protection around everything. Take a walnut. Have you ever seen like picked a walnut off a tree, and you got to get the husk off of it, and then you got the hard shell on the inside, and then you got to get to the nut. Uh, so I don't think that's an issue. And the carbohydrate fiber around the outside of the chia seeds is actually a really good fiber for growing good bacteria in your intestines. So that's an added benefit. Um, and it's true, though, that you don't get a lot of the oils if you don't like grind it up. And you don't get a lot of the omega-3 oils. Uh, because of that protection, you get some of it.
Well, this is bringing up some other questions I'm excited to see. What would be the blood test name to see your omega-3 and 6 ratios?
Um, the essential fatty acids profile,
Okay.
and just about any lab does that.
What about coconut oil? Is that safe to take for omegas?
Okay. Coconut oil has almost no omegas. It's mostly saturated fat, and omega means unsaturated. The omega-6 is from the end of this long chain fatty acid. You count six carbons over, and that's where there's a double bond. saturated fat means there's no double bonds at all. So, and that's coconut oil is pretty much saturated fat. It has some monounsaturated fats and a little bit of omega-6 in it. But yeah, it's safe. It's safe to take, but you're not getting, don't consider that you're improving your fatty acid profile by doing that.
All right, Joey, if that's a good answer to your question, let us know. And then we have another oil-related question, butter or oil? This Manja grew up in Munich and they use more butter versus oil. Do you have a preference?
Okay, so butter is actually a better choice than any vegetable oils. Margarine is a terrible thing for a body to have, and butter is so good for you, and it has the what's it called, the C7 oil. I'm blanking on the name of it. It's not stearic acid. It's anyway. There's a C7 oil that you can pretty much only get from butter. It's really hard to get, and it's like really important for your body. And there's not very much. There's very tiny amounts of omega-6 and omega-3. So if you get the grass-fed butter, and the grass-fed does have more omega-3 than omega-6. But it's like the difference between 11 to 1 and 4 to 1, omega-6 being higher. But there's not very much of it. It's really tiny amounts. So absolutely, butter is a great choice.
Are you referring to, I just did a quick Google search, triheptanoin?
Triheptanoin. No,
No.
there's another one. It's a saturated fatty acid, and I remember seeing it on a lab test, but I don't
You'll
recall.
remember it.
Yeah.
Sib says the Irish butter from Costco is excellent.
Yes.
Um, so Eddie asks, are all fish oils the same?
Good question. No, they're not all the same. Um, the cold water fish, because they live more on plankton that are making omega-3. So no animal makes omega oils. None. Fish don't make it. So you have to look at what the fish are eating, because what you're going to get, whatever the fish eats. And so if fish are living on phytoplankton instead of zooplankton. So in the northern waters where there's a lot of that, you see more of the fish eating that, and so they're going to have more of the omega-3s. Well, they're going to tend to have more of the omega-3s because that's where they're going to get that. Other fish do have a good omega-3 to omega-6 ratio, but there is a difference. You'll have more in the cold water fish than you will in the warm water fish.
Yes, someone asked in the chat earlier today, is salmon good for you?
Oh yeah, it's interesting. Farm salmon, they do feed fish meal, and so they do have a pretty good omega-3 ratio. But it's not as good as the wild caught salmon. It does make a difference. Because if you think about what they're feeding the fish in the farm, and they do use grains, they use soy, they use soy meal, cornmeal, and those are high in omega-6. So it kind of pushes their omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, so it's not quite as good as the wild caught.
Yeah. So good for omega-3.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. What causes your blood sugar to be higher in the morning versus the level it was at night?
Okay, we see this all the time, and people have asked this question frequently. It's called the dawn effect, and the cause is the insulin resistance that you get from cortisol being released in the morning. So if you ever have heard of circadian rhythm is your cortisol goes up in the morning and down at night, and then up in the morning and down at night. And that's the circadian rhythm. And when it goes up in the morning, cortisol makes you resistant to insulin and tells your body to make more glucose. So your liver is putting out glucose and you're insulin resistant. So all of a sudden, you didn't need anything at all, and your blood sugar's higher than it was when you went to bed last night. Yeah. So there's more to the effect than just what you eat. There's a lot of hormones involved.
Mm. All right, James says, I've been on Cinechroma for 3 months, but my sugars are still above normal. What can I do?
Okay, James, thank you. Okay, the purpose for Synachroma is to provide what the body needs so that you can use sugar normally. So if you're still eating a diet high in sugar, it's not going to change it very much at all. Some people it's dramatic, and they actually only had high blood sugar because of a deficiency in chromium, for example. And so they start taking Synachroma, and they go, "Wow, I'm normal," and they haven't changed their diet at all. So, but you're looking at 3 months of taking the pill and you're not getting improvement. Okay, so now you know what you need to do. The next step is to get the book called the Diabetes Solution Kit and follow the book to the letter. Start out with the beginning of what your purpose is, what your stressors are. Write down what your diet is, what your exercise is. Get it all. Start your journaling, and then start the diet, the phase one of the program, and just do phase one, and you'll be amazed.
Yeah, a lot of people come and just take Cinechroma, but we actually, Dr. Saunders says Cinechroma and our supplements aren't always the answer. You really have to start with what you put in your mouth. That's off like for food, meaning and your exercise. So all of that's laid out in the Diabetes Solution Kit. If you haven't purchased it, reach out to us. You can email me support@bartonnutrition.com. I can help you get that as well. All right. Sip says, back to triglycerides topic, please. Okay, I think she's saying she saw that her triglycerides were 40 in June. Is that too low?
No, actually, it's not too low. It's common in women who have really good normal metabolism to have very low triglycerides because they burn triglycerides more. Women burn more fat than men as a rule. So, we average it out to about 60-40, 60% fat, 40% glucose. But for women, it could be, excuse me, a little more than that. So yeah, 40 is just fine. In fact, um, there's a book I read on metabolism recently was talking about how in women, the optimum place to be is to have half your triglycerides, half the number of your HDL cholesterol. So if your HDL cholesterol or your triglycerides are lower than your HDL cholesterol, that's an optimum place to be. So no, that's really good.
Well done, Sib. All right. Jer asks, what can one do to raise ferritin level?
Oh, that's a great question. Okay, so my question would be, why do you want to raise ferritin? So the idea of ferritin being a stored um, iron. So why would you want to increase it? Well, the idea is that your ferritin is probably really low because you have low iron stores. And that might be the case, but that's not always the case. So you have to be careful to know why you need to raise your ferritin. So you can raise the ferritin by increasing the iron. But remember that ferritin is also an acute phase reactant. What that means is when there's inflammation, when there's damage to your body somewhere, the ferritin level goes up. So high ferritin doesn't necessarily mean you have too much iron. It could mean that you have inflammation. So low ferritin could mean you don't have inflammation. So how low it is kind of important. I've had people with ferritins of 3 and 4, which is really low. It should be around 100, 50 to 200, somewhere in there. And so with super low ferritin and low iron and anemia, then you've got an iron problem and you got to fix that.
All right. Let's see. I'm not sure. Okay, Lily asks how to increase butyrate. How do
Butyrate.
butyrate. Thank you.
Butyrate. Yeah. Okay, butyrate is really interesting. So, butyric acid is a short chain fatty acid, SCFA, that is made by bacteria from the prebiotics, the fiber that you're eating. And there are certain bacteria that are really good at making butyrate. Well, why is that important? Because this butyrate is like the anti-inflammatory of your intestines, and it stops you from getting inflammatory bowel diseases, irritable bowel syndrome, and polyps in your colon, and diverticulitis, all these inflammatory conditions. Um, so butyrate is really important. So how do you make more butyrate? It's really simple. Increase your prebiotics that are the fiber in your diet. So increase fiber, and then number two is increase the good bacteria in your diet. So where do you get good bacteria? Well, the ones that are like lactobacillus and bifidobacterium. That's generally a good choice, and most probiotics have something like that in them. So you could add a probiotic also.
Yeah, and I'm going to put, we have Healthy Gut, which is a probiotic. I'm going to put a link to that in the
Oh
chat.
yeah,
Yeah, if
that's a
any,
probiotic and a prebiotic.
yeah,
Yeah,
look at
with
that.
enzymes. I think it's a good choice.
We kind of know what we're doing. All right, Lori asks, I take Healthy Heart Support since January. Is it okay to take Omega with that?
Um, oh yeah, it's absolutely not as only is it okay, it's recommended. Yeah, you should take omega with that. You should take omega anyway. Yeah,
Hmm.
just whenever you eat, take an omega. It's a good idea.
Yeah. Almost every, would you say a lot of people don't have the right omega ratio?
So I test hundreds of people, thousands of people, and I can count on one hand the number of people that had a good omega 6 to omega 3 ratio.
Yeah.
It's
Here's a
really rare.
Yeah. Here's a kind of maybe a related question. It's great. Mary says, my husband is 63 and I'm 67. We both exercise 5 to 6 times a week. Our diets are similar, except that he eats processed foods and sweets daily. I rarely eat these things after learning about my insulin resistance. I don't understand why he does not have insulin resistance, and he doesn't understand why I have never had high blood pressure. Your thoughts?
Wow. Okay. Um, so what you're talking about is the differences between metabolism, the differences that are have a lot to do with genetics. There's hormones that are involved. There's inflammation that's involved. There are so many factors that enter into these metabolic issues. Um, I, I have a couple in my practice that they both had, they were overweight, had diabetes. So I put them both on the same diet, right? Essentially, the diabetes solution kit, phase one. So I put them on phase one, and they're eating a ketogenic diet, and they're eating the same things. They go to the same restaurants. They're eating the same thing, and she is losing weight, and she's feeling better, and she's getting into ketosis, and he's like gaining weight and getting worse. And I'm like, what the heck? So it turns out that his insulin was so high that, and it stayed high even in spite of not eating sugar, because he was eating a ton of protein. So he's eating all this meat and eggs and fish and cheese, all these protein things, and so his body was turning the protein into sugar, and he kept burning sugar, kept getting high insulin, and was having the same problems gaining weight, while his wife eating the exact same things as losing weight. So, there's differences in the way we metabolize things. And that's the beauty of what medicine is, if individualized medicine, where um, I don't have a group of people that have diabetes, and none of you are all the same. In fact, no two of you are exactly the same. So, So in each case, you have to find out, oh, why is it that you have this problem? Is it a hormone imbalance? Is it an inflammatory condition? Is it a genetic problem that you have? And just looking for where the issues are and go, oh, that's the problem. And then you would know how to work with it.
Mm. Yeah, women and men definitely metabolize differently because of their hormones. I wanted to say I put the healthy gut link in the chat, and Eddie Kern came back and said, "Gut repair or our gut restore is amazing. After one day, it changed my digestive life. I highly recommend it." And he had like 10 exclamation points. That's great to hear. Thank you for sharing that. Manja asks, "Does berberine help with blood sugar?"
Oh, yeah, absolutely. In fact, berberine is probably one of the better things for blood sugar. Berberine works very similarly to metformin, the most prescribed drug for blood sugar. So, I've had a lot of people tell me, "Oh, yeah, I got rid of my metformin and I took berberine instead, and it worked just as well." The thing about berberine for blood sugar, though, is it's important to take, if you have like a 500 milligram capsule, to take it 2 or 3 times a day, because it needs to be spread out. It doesn't, it kind of works and then drops off quickly. So it needs to be taken more frequently.
I'm about to find an article. I will post it in the chat. But what other things are berberine good for? Is berberine good for?
Oh, goodness, berberine. Berberine's amazing. So berberine is a metabolic miracle. It's for metabolism problems. So everything that we have in our society because we overeat, for the last 100 years plus, we've had an oversupply of food, and the world is becoming overweight. It's not just a U.S. or North America thing anymore. It's like all over the world, we're getting increasing numbers of people who are getting overweight and having metabolic problems. And berberine is one of those things that fixes, in some cases, or helps a lot of metabolic problems by blocking or increasing cyclic AMP, blocking sugar for energy and telling your body to use fat for energy. Because remember that a lot of the problems is insulin resistance is that you can't burn fat for energy. And so allowing your body to burn fat for energy helps cancer, heart disease, metabolic syndrome, blood pressure, diabetes, all of the things that we deal with now that are all the worst things, the chronic problems, berberine's good for.
I know someone who takes it for PCOS. They say it's changed their life for PCOS instead of taking metformin, which is prescribed often for that condition. And I want to say Alexander posted in the chat a pronunciation of the name that I said wrong. I'm sorry. I was saying it wrong. It should be Mania. So sorry about that. Thank you for that correction. All right. Gloria says, is taking 5,000 IU of vitamin D every day, is that excessive?
Oh, no, that's I consider that a minimum, because that's what's going to get you to a blood level of around 50. I've done thousands of these tests, and I always ask people, how much are you taking? And when they're taking 1,000 or 2,000, the usual supplemental dose, they're in the normal low range. The optimal range is around 50 to 60, which is going to be about 5,000 milligram units a day. Or some people, if they have like autoimmune disease or osteoporosis, I put them on 10,000 a day, and even that's not considered excessive. That is that will get people to the high end of normal between 80 and 100 on their blood level, which is the in the normal range.
I'm surprised we have customers who come and say that their doctor told them that that was too high of vitamin D. And we're like, no, 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 it's not. So
Well,
unfortunately,
so in Synachroma, the 5,000, there's a reason we chose that. It's because one of the things that vitamin D does is it makes you more sensitive to insulin. But if you have a low level, like you're only taking 1,000 or 2,000, you're not going to get that benefit. You need to have your blood level range in the 50s range in order to have that benefit. It also improves your immune system when you have it in the higher range. So yes, the doctors are saying for a supplement, that's more than you need. But if you have an issue that you're treating, like type 2 diabetes, then that's clearly the right amount.
Good. Another question about vitamins. How much vitamin C is good to take per day? Joby asks.
Okay, that depends.
Hmm.
Vitamin C helps you absorb iron really well. So if you have low iron, or you're having trouble with anemia or anything like that, then you should take about 500 milligrams 3 times a day with every meal to help you absorb the iron that's in your food. And that's a really good way of getting enough iron. Some people have hemochromatosis where they have iron overload, too much iron, in which case they would not want to take vitamin C with a meal.
Hmm.
So, how much vitamin C is adequate? Well, consider this, that ascorbic acid vitamin C is only part of the vitamin. That the whole thing are called bioflavonoids. So vitamin C with bioflavonoids are natural forms of vitamin C. So if you're getting if you're getting your vitamin C from eating fruits and vegetables, oranges, apples, peppers, tomatoes, then you're getting a full spectrum of vitamin C. Whereas if you're just getting ascorbic acid, that's a part of it, and it can be good for some things. But anyway, if you were to take 500 milligrams a day would be plenty. I know Linus Pauling said everybody needs 10,000 a day, but part of the reason for that is because he isolated out the ascorbic acid from the vitamin C compound. He isolated the ascorbic acid and said, okay, this is the active part of the vitamin C. Therefore, we're just going to study that. And yeah, you need 10,000 of that to equal the effects, the synergistic effects you get when you have the bioflavonoids with it.
Wow. All right, Mary commented she's the one that eats differently, the same thing as her husband, but her husband does not have insulin resistance and she does. She says, I'm doing well with controlling insulin resistance without meds through diet, exercise, and synochroma. However, I also take a daily calcium blend for osteoporosis that has a fairly high vitamin D level. My vitamin D blood level now tests high, 69. My doctor said to keep all my supplements limited to 1,000 IU per day for vitamin D for now. I have to choose between focusing on osteoporosis supplements versus synochroma. So disappointed.
Okay. Well, I don't think that's good advice because 69 is actually an optimum level, especially if you have, that's not high at all. Over 100 is considered high. But even then, people with osteoporosis often take enough to be over 100. So I don't know. I would disagree with that. But, you know, it's a choice. It's a choice we make because
Sure is.
nobody really knows anything. So, we just have groups of people to deal with.
Mm. All right. Someone asks, will the fish oil say if it is cold or warm water on the bottle? Eddie, is that for any fish supplement or is that for our omega supplement? I'm not sure.
Yeah,
Um,
that would be the omega supplement. It doesn't necessarily say cold water fish, but it'll say from mackerel, or from sardines, or and then you can say, okay, that's cold water fish. But actually, if you have a bottle of it, it's much easier because it's going to give you the DHA and EPA content in there. So if you have 1,000, they add up to 1,000 milligrams of EPA plus DHA, then that's good. Then that's a good amount.
all right. The wild salmon doesn't seem to have streaks of fat, question mark. I'm not sure what that means, Lily.
Um, I don't know that most of the fat in salmon is in the skin anyway, normally.
Hmm.
So If you eat the skin, you get the benefit from it.
Oh, can't imagine. I particularly don't like that. All right, well, our time is up. We got through almost all of our questions. So I'm so glad you guys were here, got to ask the doctor your questions, learn something hopefully today, but come back next week. We'll have a different topic, same person answering, but have a lovely rest of your day, everybody. And Dr. Saunders, thank you for your time today. It's good to see you. Good to have all of you here.
Okay,
Bye
see you
now.
next week. Bye.